Don't ask for a raise the way 90% of people do, walking into your boss's office with sweaty palms, mumbling something about, maybe if it's not too much trouble, and leaving with a pat on the head and $0 extra. That approach is costing you thousands. Let me show you what actually works. If you're watching this, you already know something's wrong. You're working harder than ever, your cost of living is skyrocketing, and your paycheck feels like a bad joke from 2019. The average millennial changes jobs every 2.5 years. Not because we're flaky, but because loyalty doesn't pay the bills anymore. And yet, asking for a raise feels scarier than checking your bank account after a night out. Here's what we're doing today. I'm giving you the exact blueprint to walk into that conversation with confidence, leverage, and a number that actually respects your worth. No corporate fluff. No just work harder nonsense. Real strategy that gets real results. You're watching M-Cubed Money Mindset Makeover. This isn't just a channel, it's a mindset revolution. Subscribe to elevate your money mindset. Elevate your life. Learn how to break free from the cycle of underpaid labor and build the financial security you actually deserve. Hit that subscribe button and join the M-Cubed Mavericks because your future self is counting on you. Let's dive in. Let's get real about where we're at. According to recent data, roughly 60% of workers haven't asked for a raise in the past year, even though inflation has been eating our purchasing power alive. Translation? You're essentially taking a pay cut every year you don't negotiate. Your $50,000 salary from last year? With 4 to 6% inflation, that's really only worth about $47,000 in today's dollars. You're literally getting poorer by standing still. And here's the kicker. Companies know this. They're not sitting around boardrooms going, gosh, we should really pay our people more just because it's the right thing to do. That's not how this works. Corporate budgets allocate for raises, but they're reactive, not proactive. You have to pull the trigger. Think of it like this. Your job is a subscription service you're selling to your employer. But unlike Netflix constantly raising prices, you've been offering the same service at a discount for years. It's time for a price adjustment. Here's the brutal truth about our generation. We entered the workforce during a recession, watched wage growth stagnate while housing costs doubled, and now we're expected to compete with AI while carrying student loan debt that our parents didn't have to deal with. The traditional work hard and you'll be rewarded model is broken. Hard work is the baseline now, not the differentiator. But here's the real twist. The system doesn't change until you change your relationship with it. Companies will continue underpaying workers as long as workers continue accepting it. Your silence is their profit margin. So every time you avoid that uncomfortable conversation, every time you tell yourself you should just be grateful to have a job, you're participating in your own financial suppression. I know that sounds harsh, but sometimes we need to hear the truth without the sugarcoating. Let me paint you a picture, and I bet this is going to feel familiar. You've been at your job for 18 months. You show up early, you stay late. You've taken on responsibilities that definitely weren't in your job description. You trained the new hire. You fixed that disaster project nobody else wanted to touch. You're basically doing the work of 1.5 people. And then you see it. Linda from accounting, who started the same time as you, just posted about her promotion on LinkedIn. Or worse, you accidentally see a job posting for your position at a competitor, and they're offering $15,000 more than what you make. The rage hits. Then the anxiety. Then the self-doubt starts creeping in like an unwanted house guest. Maybe I'm not good enough. What if they say no and then I'm on their radar as difficult? What if they fire me for even asking? I should just be grateful to have a job. Stop right there. That voice in your head? That's not wisdom. That's conditioning. You've been trained to feel guilty about wanting fair compensation for your labor. It's the same system that tells you to be a team player, which is just code for work off the clock, and to pay your dues, which is code for accept being underpaid while we extract maximum value from you. You're not greedy for wanting more money. You're not ungrateful for recognizing your value. You're not difficult for advocating for yourself. You're just operating in an economy that was rigged before you even got your first job. Have you ever been scared to ask for a raise at work? Drop your story in the comments. Your experience might help someone else finally demand what they're worth. Here's what's actually happening. You're exhausted. Not lazy, exhausted. You're working in a system where productivity has skyrocketed but wages have flatlined. Corporate profits? Up 400% since the 1980s. Worker pay adjusted for inflation? Barely moved. The math isn't mathing, and your silence is part of what keeps it broken. I'm not saying that to make you feel bad. I'm saying it to wake you up to the power you actually have. Before we get into tactics, before we talk about what to say and when to say it, you need to fundamentally rewire how you think about this conversation. Asking for a raise isn't begging. It's not negotiating a favor. It's a business transaction between two parties, and you are one of those parties. Not the lesser party. Not the desperate party. An equal party. You are not an employee hoping for mercy. You are a skilled professional offering services at market rate. Big difference. When you internalize that, when you really feel it in your bones, the entire energy of the conversation shifts. You're not asking permission to be valued. You're informing them of your new rate based on market data, performance metrics, and expanded responsibilities. That's CEO energy. That's ownership mindset. Now here's where most people mess up, and I see this constantly. They go in emotional instead of strategic. They focus on why they need the money. Bills, debt, rent going up, instead of why they've earned it through results, value, and impact. And look, I get it. Your rent did go up. Your student loans are crushing you. But here's the hard truth. Your boss doesn't care that your rent went up. That's not their problem. Harsh? Maybe. But it's reality. What they do care about is losing a high performer who drives results. That's leverage. That's the language they understand. So when you walk into that office, you need to be speaking their language, not your emotional language. This is where most people stumble right out of the gate. They walk in without a number, without data, without documentation, and they wonder why they get lowballed or dismissed. You can't win a negotiation you haven't prepared for. First thing you need to do is know your number. And I don't mean a vague range like, I'd like to make more money. I mean a specific figure that you've researched and can defend. Don't walk in asking what can you do. That's amateur hour. That's leaving money on the table. You need to use tools like Glassdoor, Salary.com, PayScale, even LinkedIn Salary to find out what people in your role, in your industry, in your city are actually making right now. Not what they were making 5 years ago, right now. And here's a pro tip that's going to save you thousands. Aim slightly higher than your target. If you want 65,000, ask for 70. Negotiation room is real, and you don't want to negotiate yourself down to less than what you needed. Psychology plays a huge role here. When they counter with 67, you feel like you won something, and they feel like they got a deal. Everybody walks away satisfied, but knowing your number is just the beginning. Next, you need to document your wins, and this is where you become a data-driven machine. I want you to create an actual document that tracks every project you've completed and their impact. Did you generate revenue? Save costs? Improve efficiency? By how much? Be specific. Get numbers. Collect positive feedback from clients, customers, or leadership. Track every single time you've gone above your job description. List skills you've developed that add value to the organization. Any certifications or training you've completed on your own time. Because here's what happens when you walk in with this documentation. Numbers speak louder than feelings. I increased customer retention by 15%. Hits completely different than I work really hard. One is measurable value. The other is what everybody says. Now let's talk about timing, because this can make or break your entire approach. Don't ask for a raise on a Monday morning when your boss just got back from a nightmare weekend, or right before quarterly earnings when everyone's stressed about budgets. That's just setting yourself up for failure. Strategic timing means asking after you've just completed a major successful project when your value is fresh in everyone's mind. Or during your performance review, because this is literally the designated time for this conversation. Or when the company announces strong financial results and everybody's feeling good. Or at the end of the fiscal year when next year's budgets are being planned and there's actual flexibility. Bad timing? When the company just announced layoffs. When your boss is visibly stressed, or when you recently made a big mistake. If you drop the ball on something, give it some time to blow over, rebuild that trust, and then have the conversation. Here's the secret sauce that most raise negotiation advice completely skips over. And this is where you separate yourself from everyone else who's just going through the motions. It's not just about what you've done. It's about what you're going to do. Your boss isn't just paying for past performance. They're investing in future value. So when you make your case, you need to paint a picture of what paying you more looks like for them. This is where you flip the script from, "Give me more," to, "Here's what you get." So instead of just saying, "I did these great things," you say, "I did these great things, and here's what I'm going to do next that's going to be even more valuable." Maybe you want to take on leading the Q2 marketing initiative, which could increase reach by 30%. Maybe you've been developing skills in data analytics that could help the team make better strategic decisions. Maybe you're ready to mentor junior team members, which reduces onboarding time and training costs. See what you just did there? You made paying you more sound like an investment, not an expense. You made it about their future success, not just your past contributions. That's the shift that closes deals. This is where everything clicks. The moment you realize that your worth is not determined by what your employer currently pays you. It's determined by the value you create and what the market will bear. Read that again. Your worth is not their decision. It's a market reality. You are not a victim of your paycheck. You are the CEO of your own career. And like any CEO, you make strategic decisions about where to allocate your most valuable resource, which is your time and your skills. And if one client isn't paying market rate, a good CEO finds better clients. Simple as that. So here's the framework that changes the game. When you're ready to have this conversation, you start by requesting a meeting. You don't ambush your boss in the hallway or bring it up during a random check-in. You say something like, "Hi, I'd like to schedule some time to discuss my compensation. I've been doing research and reflecting on my contributions over the past year, and I believe my salary should be adjusted to reflect my current responsibilities and market value. When would be a good time this week?" This sets the tone immediately. You're confident, professional, prepared. You're not begging. You're requesting a business meeting to discuss business terms. When you actually meet, here's how the conversation should flow. You start with appreciation because you want to set a collaborative tone, not an adversarial one. "Thank you for making time for this. I've really valued my time here and the projects I've been able to work on." Then you get into the meat. "Over the past year, I've done X, Y, and Z," and you cite specific achievements with numbers and impact. Real data. Then you bring in your research. "Based on my research using Glassdoor, PayScale, and industry reports, the market rate for my role with my experience level in our city is this range. I'm currently at this salary, and I'd like to discuss adjusting my compensation to this specific amount." Now, what happens next determines everything. And this is where most people panic and accept whatever scraps they're offered. Don't do that. If they say, "That's a significant increase, we weren't expecting this," you stay calm and respond with, "I understand. That's why I wanted to have this conversation now rather than during the busy season. I've prepared documentation of my contributions and market research. Would you like to review it together?" If they hit you with, "Now's not a great time," or "Budgets are tight," this is critical. Don't let "not now" become "not ever." You say, "I appreciate that timing matters. Can we put a specific date on the calendar, maybe 60 days out, to revisit this? I'd also like to understand what metrics or milestones would make this possible within that time frame." You're holding them accountable while being reasonable. If they counter with a weak offer, like 2 or 3% when you asked for 15, don't fold. You say, "I appreciate the offer, but that doesn't align with current market rates or the expanded scope of my role." With inflation at 6%, a 3% increase actually represents a pay cut in real terms. I'd like to request that we explore options closer to my proposed figure, especially given how I increased customer retention by 15%. And if they try to offer non-monetary benefits instead of actual money, you can acknowledge it while redirecting. "I value flexible schedule and extra PTO, and I'm open to discussing a comprehensive compensation package. However, my primary focus right now is base salary adjustment to market rate. Is there flexibility to meet closer to my number with some of these additional benefits included?" The key through all of this is that you're not combative, but you're also not a pushover. You're a professional negotiating professional terms. Let's bring this home. Asking for a raise isn't about being greedy. It's about refusing to subsidize your employer's profits with your undervalued labor. It's about recognizing that loyalty without fair compensation is just exploitation with better branding. Here's what we covered today. You need to research your market value like your financial future depends on it, because it does. You need to document your wins with numbers and impact, not feelings and effort. You need to time your ask strategically when you have leverage and the company has capacity. You need to frame the conversation as an investment in future value, not just compensation for past work. Never accept "not now" without a specific follow-up date in the calendar, and be ready to counter weak offers with data and backbone. And here's the truth bomb you need to hear, the one that might sting a little but needs to be said. If your employer refuses to pay you market rate after you've proven your value, they're telling you exactly how much they respect your contribution. Believe them, and start looking for opportunities that will. The job market is competitive, and companies that underpay lose talent. You have more power than you think. You just have to be willing to use it. The worst thing they can say is no. And if they do, you have valuable information about whether this is where you should be investing your future. Your move, M-Cubed family. The conversation starts with you. The power has always been yours. You just needed the blueprint to use it. We studied real raise negotiations that failed. Part 2 breaks down the exact phrases that tank merit increases. Watch it next, M-Cubed family. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. I poured everything into making it a game changer for your financial independence. See you there. Drop it in the comments. What's your biggest fear about asking for a raise? Let's work through it together. Hit subscribe so you don't miss part 2, and remember, unsubscribe from broke, subscribe to M-Cubed. Let's go.